Let's talk about yellow dust. Okay, we're all familiar with yellow dust, and maybe you know its origins and what its health effects are, but let's just make sure you do. Okay, so yellow dust is basically fine soil particles, mostly silts and mud particles that originate in the deserts of Western China, Mongolia, and Kazakhstan, and they're carried into the air by windstorms. And because they're such fine particles, they can go far, far distances and end up transported as far away as Korea and further. So, in fact, they sometimes can be carried as far away, depending on the storm, all the way across the ocean and end up in North America. And as you can see in these images, it's pretty horrifying that storms here are bringing the dust in, and before long, and seen from space, you can barely even see down below it all. So, because of prevailing winds in this part of in these latitudes, so basically from 30 degrees to 60 degrees where we live, you have they're called the prevailing westerlies. They blow from west to east, so they're going to carry this windblown sand and dust particles across the Asian mainland and then into our peninsula and off the sea into Japan and to points east. First mention of it, actually, as a phenomenon in Korea dates back to the Shilla Kingdom uh, in um, in 174 AD. There's records of it then. Sorry, Mr. Paul came here. I'm supposed to go right home. I'm going to finish this up real quick. All right, so here's the thing. Yellow dust occurs all year, but its concentrations are highest in the springtime. That's because that's when they have big windstorms as the seasons transition in the Asian mainland. As it transitions from winter to spring, there's a lot of windstorms that kicks up this dust and carries it over our way. Now, the thing is, it happens in the springtime, but something else does as well, and that is pollen. So please don't when you see dust on a car or on the street, that's pollen. That's not the same thing as yellow dust. So you'll see it at the same time of year, but I guarantee you the particle size that makes up the yellow dust that we're concerned with, that's coming from the deserts of Central Asia, is far too small for you to see it on a surface like this. In fact, it's very, very small. It's finer than 2.5 in some cases. So it gets down to like less than 1 micron. So it gets down to particles that are so small, not to freak you out or anything, but they can be inhaled directly through your lungs into your bloodstream and get into your organs, including your brain. So these particles are very detrimental to our health. Um, and they do cause a lot of health conditions. In fact, every year in Korea, about 18,000 people die, not just of yellow dust, but pollution generally. And to what extent that's yellow dust, I don't think has been made clear, but it's definitely an important factor. One of the main problems with yellow dust, actually, apart from its small size, is it often contains heavy metals, cadmium and mercury in particular. And this cadmium and mercury are released by burning coal in power plants in China and parts of Central Asia, like Kazakhstan. And so these particulate matters land in the Gobi Desert, and then when these storms happen, it picks up, carries it over to us. So in addition to just being a problem from being small size, it also introduces into our bodies these heavy metals, which are known to cause health problems, specifically neurologic problems. Now, although it comes from China, it's not really fair to blame China for it. Honestly, I mean, we can blame them for polluting the air and getting the cadmium and mercury into it, but they can't help the fact that there's deserts there. Now, and it's true, some of their agricultural practices have extended these deserts, desertification, something we'll talk about later in the year. But uh, Mr. Paul say, why aren't you at the car? I'll be there right soon, buddy. The deal is these winds have been blowing back since before the Shilla Kingdom. I mean, they've been blowing this dust our way. And so you really can't say the yellow dust is China's fault, but it is Korea's problem. And now let's just talk about what's Korea's problem. So yes, yellow dust is a problem, no question. But how much of our air quality is really China's fault? I just read an article published by the BBC recently. I'm going to share with you. And according to this article, and it's based on scientists here in Korea, they think about 50 to 60% of our air quality problems are the result of China, and that's apart from yellow dust. That's just general pollution blowing across the Yellow Sea and ending up in South Korea. But that means 40 to 50% of our population is homegrown, and that's something we can do something about. And there's not much we can do about China, but we can do something about Korea. This kind of pollution, take half of it out of there. That'd be pretty great. So there's things that can be done. There's things that are being done, and we'll talk about those as we go through the year. But the main thing is to try to stop burning coal, try to stop using diesel fuel, and try to find ways of reducing uh, internal combustion. And what can you do to protect yourself from yellow dust? Simple. I think you know this. Have a high quality mask. This also works for COVID. Not a bad idea. Okay, so that wraps up this unit, guys. Thanks for watching. I better get to the car before Mr. Paul has a fit.